Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. Abia returning officer in the last governorship election alleges attempt to coerce her into compromising the election result. Rivers governor-elect and others received certificates of return in Port Harcourt, the state capital. Heightened calls for prosecution of electoral offenders in Plateau State as APC, PDP trade words over issue. And it's not yet Uhuru on the cash scarcity palaver. Expert weighs in on solution. Thank you for staying tuned. I am Bukola Koka. The governor-elect of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy and elected officers of the State House of Assembly today received their certificates of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission at a brief ceremony in Port Harcourt. The candidates filed out one after the other as the INEC commissioner in Rivers State presents the certificates to them. The governorship election held on March the 18th, 2023.
Today is a manifestation of that belief. It's 33 over 33, 2 over 2. I believe you understand what I mean. I will not end by not assuring the Rivers people that the development they are recording by our principal, we will continue with it. We will ensure that though the bar has been raised for us, we will also raise the bar for whoever is going to take over from us. That we have just started. We solicit for your support that when we start, we'll call upon you to come and support us. For my opponents, or will I say the opposition, our doors are open, including our windows. If you don't want to pass through the door, you can enter through the window. Because we really need everyone on board for a better and progressive Rivers State. Thank you, and God bless you.
The drama that followed the announcement of the Abia State governorship election result is yet to fully play out, as the returning officer, Professor Nenna Oti, today is alleging that there were attempts to coerce her into compromising the governorship election results. She claims she received several calls and was offered financial inducement to scuttle the exercise, but that she looked away.
As an electoral officer, I have never in my life, never participated in any election. Never. My duty came calling. I made my inquiries from Abuja And I said, if I perish, I perish. They came with their threats. They came with their money. They came with their intimidation. I will mark Kwakoro. I didn't start today. I stand here before God, Jesus Christ. I have never defrauded at all anyone. Declare the riot act as follows. Under me, votes must count. Under me, the people's mandate will be upheld. Because Professor Nana Oti, the mother of 3 children, and the wife of Unandoti, the daughter of Ibewo, the daughter of Afibo, the daughter of Ebony State, the daughter of Udibo, the daughter of Nigeria, can never do evil.
Professor Nana Oti there. Away from Abia State now, rising from its National Executive Council meeting today, the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress have suspended their planned strike, which was to commence over the scarcity of Naira. Recall that the Labour Union had threatened to embark on a nationwide strike from today, Wednesday, March the 29th, 2023, if the cash crunch, fuel scarcity and electricity tariff increase were not addressed. The NLC president, Mr. Joe Ajaero, said after receiving briefings from its state councils in the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, the NLC decided to put on hold the planned stay-at-home directive issued to workers last week. He said they would resume the planned protest if the Naira notes become unavailable to Nigerians by the end of the 2-week period.
Okay, wow. It's also
with reports coming from all the states of the Federation and local governments on the level of compliance of banks. And we are happy to tell you that, yes, there is compliance by CBN. But the NLC, after its NEC meeting, doubted the sustainability of that compliance. And we don't want to be calling you back after 2 days for another action. And we felt that we have to monitor this compliance for the next 2 weeks to see whether it is sustainable. Because they have rushed to move money to commercial banks. And some of those commercial banks are getting empty again. Queues are returning in some of them. So it will be very naive for the Congress to hurriedly call off the action. Whereas we are not shutting down tomorrow, we want to loosen up for another 2 weeks, with committees set up at the national level and in all the states of the Federation to coordinate the level of compliance.
And in the meantime, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, says he has assurances from the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, that the proposed strike action over the cash scarcity has been put on hold. The Labour Minister, who took his turn in the ministerial briefing in Abuja, says the federal government has reached an agreement with the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress to suspend the planned strike.
The Minister of Labour and Employment arrives at the State House hours before a planned picketing of the branches of the Central Bank of Nigeria across the Federation by the Nigeria Labour Congress to give updates on the recent happenings at the 68th Ministerial Weekly Briefing. The leadership of the NLC had earlier given the federal government a 7-day ultimatum to end the cash scarcity or face a nationwide protest by Wednesday, March 29.
We told the CBN what to do, and they did exactly what we asked them to do. Engage them, and they did. They, NLC, affirmed that there is an improvement in the cash flow. They praised the CBN at our last meeting yesterday and told them to improve. I'm optimistic they will not strike because we have apprehended, like I told you.
The minister responds to questions about the ministry's slow response to crisis situations.
We have conciliated about 4,000 labor disputes. More than, I think, 4,300 something since I came to that ministry. And you don't hear about them. We have what we call rapid response, especially in oil and gas. Rapid response, because we know the implication.
He also speaks on palliatives after fuel subsidy is halted by June.
It is left for the incoming government to take it or leave it and address the issue as as best as they deem fit. But definitely, like I told you, we're already handling some of the envisaged challenges. We are handling the issue of pay rise. I say all MDAs are doing that. Even for federal civil servants.
The minister affirms that 19 job centers offering various services have been established across the 6 geopolitical zones as part of the government's efforts to strengthen production self-sufficiency and skill development. But perhaps the real concern lies in private sector involvement, how to upscale unemployment rate since it quadrupled in 2015 and 2020 recession. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
You're still on to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television, and still to come, a labor law expert weighs in on the cash scarcity palaver. Join us again. Welcome back. And joining us now from our Abuja studio is Mr. Monday Ajay. He's a labor law expert. Thank you for joining us on Lunchtime Politics.
It's my pleasure being here. Thank you for having me too.
Yes, sir. So let's start right away. What should Labour be doing at this time, besides the committee that it has said that he has set up to monitor compliance by banks for the provision of cash? What should he be doing in terms of engagement with the Ministry of Labour to ensure that indeed there is compliance?
Just like they've risen by way of suspending this strike, one is expected as a labor leader on their part to also push further as regard the means to really work towards the promise that the labor minister have assured them, because Nigerian factor also plays out. The moment somebody makes certain statements, it could be political statements, there must be a little pressure on the part of the leaders of the Nigerian Labour Congress on the Minister of Labour to see that the statement is not just political, but they really mean well. So they must have this constant meeting, regular meeting, so as to show on their part that they mean business, and then the Labour Minister should also stand tall to also work towards the statement he has made to them. So there must be a kind of constant meeting now between the Labour leaders and the ministry, so that at the end of the day, each party will know that they are really serious about the issue that is on the table.
If you listen to the Labour leader in that actuality we showed earlier, Mr. Jairo himself expressed skepticism about the level of compliance. And the past 2 weeks have piled pressure on workers, civil servants, and even, the entrepreneurial sector as well. And as a result now, the 2 weeks window that Labour has given the federal government, do you think it's enough guarantee to address the twin issues of cash crunch, fuel scarcity, and even the concern about electricity tariff?
I think it's enough. To a responsible government, 2 weeks is enough, because as a government, they are aware of this development, not today, and you don't need to even wait for Nigerian Labour Congress, to tell you what to do as a government. If really you are committed to serve the people as you want to. So whether Labour is giving ultimatum or not, they should have preferred solution to some of these challenges. So to me, that 2 weeks given is enough. Is it not to comply? Are we talking that, or are we saying that the CBN does not have means to produce more notes? Or are we saying this administrative instruction cannot be complied with by relevant body? So 2 weeks on my own part is adequate enough for each party, especially the bodies concerned, to act and perform their role so that the society will be better for it. So to me, it's enough for them to act.
And relatedly, some would say that this 2 weeks window is perhaps a strategy by government to buy time. Do you agree?
Whether you buy time or not, the 2 weeks will surely come. From there, we will now know whether they are committed or not. And I can assure you, there will be no any reason that could be given by anybody again to justify the suspension of that strike. Then we don't need to blame Labour Congress if they embark on their strike. They must act even within the purview of the law. For giving that to, that shows that they are reasonable. So I must commend them for that. If you look at the reason why they gave that particular 2 weeks, of course, every reasonable Nigerian must also appreciate them for that. Otherwise, by now, we'll have been in another economy's terrible situation. Why? So they have tried on their own part. So if at the end of the day, the government refused to fulfill their own side, then nobody should blame, but it's not a means to buy time. This is part of action that a responsible leader of a union like Nigerian Labour Congress should also agree to. So nobody can blame them. So I don't see that as it means to buy time. It's to show their commitment and to allow peace to reign in the Labour community.
And after the expiration of the 2 weeks window, should government fail to fulfill its own part of the commitment, what do you recommend should be Labour's line of action, next line of action?
Of course, they did not know to be true. As we speak, the action is not that it has been called off. It's just to suspend the action, meaning that they are waiting for so and so person to perform its own role. So meaning that the strike is still hanging. The moment the government or any other agency fail to comply with the promise that they've made, then naturally, what flow is for the labor to go back to where they are coming from, and that's to embark on their strike. Though it will be unfortunate, but I think that's the only option left for them. Because if you started with negotiation and nobody is really taking it serious, then you put the workers, the Labour Congress, to the wall, and the next thing for them to do is to bite, and the society will suffer it. Because I know, and I'm sure what I'm saying, that most of these government agencies and government functionaries, they don't suffer most of these things. Everything is free for them. It is the masses that will be at the receiving end of this thing when it happens, and that would be too unfortunate if they allow it to go that way. But I'm sure they will not do that.
Mr. Monday Ajay, we thank you very much for your time and contribution on Lunchtime Politics. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And more on the program now. Since the conclusion of the 2023 general elections, there has been divergent views bordering on credibility of the process, as well as results announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for the presidential and National Assembly elections. Opposition parties, particularly the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party, have claimed victory, and they're contesting the outcome of the poll. This meeting, put together by the Peace for Free organization, is in Ebonyi and is to plead with the people, especially the youth, not to take part in any activity that is capable of truncating the peace. We'll have that story subsequently. In the meantime, the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, and opposition People's Democratic Party in Plateau State are trading words of improper conduct during the just concluded governorship elections in the state. At two different press conferences held in Jos, the state capital, both political parties are pointing accusing fingers at each other, as well as calling on the prosecution of electoral offenders that are culpable in the course of the electoral exercise.
A war of words between members of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP, over the conduct of the last election in the state. The All Progressives Congress is uncomfortable with the role played by prominent individuals of the opposition party at collation centers, as well as involvement of ad hoc staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission in the conduct of the exercise.
In some of the elections that were held, especially those on Plateau, especially the issue of the gubernatorial election, we discovered, knowing fully well that propaganda and other issues that were propagated before the election day had to be met on ground. I cannot say that the gubernatorial election was okay with me. As I've stated in my statement, there were many places where election discrepancies were noticed, rigging of election took place, overvoting took place, and electoral umpires, those who were not supposed to be where they went and participated. So I cannot say for the case of Plateau that it was free and fair.
On the other hand, the People's Democratic Party is calling on security agents to extend its investigations on various electoral offenders and accomplices that are responsible for the missing electoral material during the elections.
We call on Nigerian police to go after all the 3 ad hoc staff of INEC at the 14 polling units and 14 police officers attached to this polling unit. It is clear that there were an active conspiracy among all those involved, as all the 42 ad hoc staff in the 14 polling units switched off their phones, as well as 14 policemen attached to this polling unit, for a proper investigation and prosecution of these electoral offences. All 56 conspirators and collaborators should be arrested.
As the aggrieved party in the elections has proceeded to the Electoral Tribunal to seek redress, it is opined that security operatives should also investigate and prosecute those involved in electoral offences during the exercise.
More political stories now. The All Progressives Congress in Kano State is asking its members and supporters to remain calm and law-abiding during the ongoing review of the results of the March 18 governorship election by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. In a statement issued by the State Commissioner for Information and Internal Affairs, Malam Mohammed Garba, he assures the public that the party would do everything possible within the provisions of the law to ensure justice is served. The statement reads in part, "We call on all our members and supporters to remain calm and law-abiding, no matter the outcome of the ongoing review of the results of the March 18 governorship election by the Independent National Electoral Commission." The Kano governorship election, held on March the 18th, was keenly contested by various political parties, with the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, emerging victorious. However, the election was marred by allegations of irregularities, leading to the ongoing review process by INEC. And the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has finally named its Deputy National Chairman, North, Umar Damagum, as its acting national chairman in a bid to address the leadership tussle within the party. Mr. Damagum is replacing Senator Yocha Ayu, whom the court has restrained from acting as the national chairman of the party. The National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Mr. Debo Olugunagba, announced this to journalists after a meeting of the party's National Working Committee in Abuja. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
We have Sawa Telumu.
These are executive committee members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, from Igioro Council Ward in Boko local government area of Benue State, the same ward as Senator Yocha Ayu. They are in the National Secretariat of the party to brief journalists on the alleged suspension of Senator Ayu from the ward.
The executive committee members have stated clearly that they have no knowledge about the letter and have not authorized anybody whatsoever to generate such mischievous letter on behalf of the executive committee. The purported signatures on the letter were forged, and no member of PDP executive committee of Igoro Council Ward have signed that letter, nor caused to be signed on his or her behalf.
Moments after, some members of the National Working Committee of the PDP walk into the same hall. They have been holding an emergency meeting behind closed doors and have reached certain key decisions.
After a careful consideration of the court order, and in line with Section 45, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the PDP as amended in 2017, the NWC resolved that the Deputy National Chairman North, His Excellency Ambassador Umar Ilia Damagum, assumes the national chairmanship of our party in acting capacity, with effect from today, Tuesday, 28 March 2023.
I will be here with you in an acting capacity pending the determination of what is to come soonest from the courts.
Mr. Iyocha Ayu was suspended a week after the general election for alleged anti-party activities, including failure to pay his annual subscription fees and failure to vote during the election, following which a Benue State High Court in Makurdi ordered him to stop acting as national chairman. However, the PDP National Working Committee calls for calm among the leaders and members of the party. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And to other stories, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, says it has developed a new empowerment scheme for the Niger Delta youth, which focuses on entrepreneurship, which is why the interventionist agency explains it will work with the Chambers of Commerce in the Niger Delta to serve as a pool from where aspiring young entrepreneurs of the region will be empowered. NDDC Managing Director Dr. Samuel Obuku stated this at a youth interactive forum in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Still basking in the euphoria of its performance in the just concluded general elections, the Labour Party is vowing to make a difference to deepen the nation's democracy. And this is coming from the national chairman of the party, Mr. Julius Aburi, who believes that none of the newly elected members of the National Assembly under the party will defect to another party. Mr. Aburi was speaking in Abuja after meeting with National Assembly elect members of the party, whom he described as people of integrity. And the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, says plans are on course to ensure a peaceful and formal transfer of power to the President-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, on May the 29th. He says despite litigations arising from the presidential elections, President Muhammadu Buhari will not spend one more day as president after the expiration of his tenure. Mr. Mustafa made this known during the meeting of the Presidential Transition Committee in the nation's capital. And that's it on today's edition of Lunchtime Politics. Thank you for watching. Join us again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.